Hi, my name is Ashley and welcome to my channel. I'm starting a YouTube channel basically to focus on hobbies that I'm really passionate about and specific reading. Today I want to be doing the Booktube Newbie tag as well as going over my 2021 reading goals. So for the Newbie tag, the first question is, why did you start this channel? For me personally, I started this channel because I don't have a lot of friends who read the same genres that I do, or they read as quickly as I do. So I wanted to be able to have more of a sense of community and find more people who read like as wide of a range as I do, whether that's like classic literature or straight up just like internet fan fiction, some of which is good and some of which is trash. I know it's trash and I enjoy trash. The second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube or Booktube in general? For me, I think that everybody has like almost like a niche, things that they're like really into. There's a lot of readers who are like very good critical readers. There are readers who just like read for fun, people who have like a literature background, and I feel like I'm mostly a fun reader. I do enjoy reading like more informational stuff. I have like a sociology and anthropology degree, and right now I'm like trying to become a social worker, so I'm pursuing my master's in social work. And for me specifically, I will do a lot of reading in those fields, but I just love to read everything that isn't informational as well. I will look into things in a more critical lens because like I do have like a lot of information about like how humans work, how humans interact, and like human development in general. But I also just love reading things that like make me feel good, make me like discover a new world, teach me about a culture that I might not know, and those are things that I'm interested in. Question number 3 is, what are you most excited for about this new channel? For me in particular, I used to have a book club and I don't run it anymore, so I really missed that like sense of community, the consistent reading with a group. And I'd love to be able to like, even if people aren't reading the same book as me at the same time, to have that open dialogue and discussion about like what I am reading and talk to others about how they feel about the book, whether it's the same as me or like completely not aligned. Number 4 is, why do you love reading? Like I said before, I think that reading is just like a really fun like escape. I love it to learn about like cultures, experiences that I might not like align with. I haven't had the experiences myself, identities that I want to know more about but don't know about. And I think that like it's very important to have like that representation, those voices, those like experiences. Even in my own like identities and alignments, I understand that people have like very different experiences that I do, and I love to see like the other side of that as well. Other than that, I just think that like no matter like what's going on in life, I love to like really delve into a story so I can like avoid things that are going on in my own life and like discover a whole new world. Number 5 is, what books or series got you into reading? I feel like I started reading around middle school, and a lot of it was standalone books, probably books that were like out of my age range because I was reading so quickly. But I would say the series that got me really into reading would be the Pretty Little Liars series and Twilight. Both of those series, I would say that I read them the quickest. I was the most invested in them. This is before like I even had a library card, so I was borrowing all these books from my friends who their parents like could afford the series, and they like bought them very quickly for their children, so I was able to like read off of my friends. And because they weren't my books, I was like really pushing myself to read them as quickly as possible and was really invested in the stories in a way that I had never been invested in reading before, especially because they were series. So before I would just like read 300 pages, the story would end there. But this was like my first real experience with like almost world building, my first real experience with like fantasy books and like a book that is larger than just like one book itself. So I was able to like continue the story, really like delve into it, started getting like really into fan fiction because of Twilight in specific. So I even widened my scope of reading and the things that I enjoyed based off of my experience reading Twilight. Number 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't think I would have a question to ask any of my like specific booktubers. I think the stuff that I really enjoy about them as people is like what they bring to the table in terms of like a genuine like air about them. You can tell that like even though they might be anxious about what people like think when they like share their opinions, they're very open and forward with like what they love and what they didn't love. They're all critical thinkers. When I think of like my favorite like booktubers that I like read, watch their videos constantly, will go back and watch their videos for comfort. So I really enjoy the fact that like even if they're in like a literature background, an English background, going into like the field in some way or form, all of them like don't look as reading as just a business side, and they don't look at reading as just pleasure. They definitely find that like in between, and that's something that I would love to find. I've definitely in the past like gone between having like everything I read as 5 stars, and I definitely like have looked back at some of the books that I was like putting as 5 stars and they weren't great, and definitely have been like on the side where I'm like super critical about everything I'm reading, which isn't great in either regard. That's both extremes. So I want to get to a point where I can be critical but still enjoy my reading. What challenges do you think starting a YouTube channel would be the hardest to overcome? I think the beginning might be the most difficult for me. I'm definitely like the type of person who like thrives off of community in one sense or the other. That's like the buzzword for today's video. So I like love to have somebody to talk to about any book I'm reading, any genre that I like might want to get into, and it's very hard for me almost to put myself out there in any like way, sense, or form. I think that like making a YouTube video would be a little easier for me because I don't necessarily have to like talk to people in person, which sometimes makes me anxious, but I will still be able to get that like interaction through like comments, like DMs, like tweets, things like that, and that's something that I'm really like looking forward to. But for the beginning, I definitely think it'd be challenging to like be posting and not have like the interaction that I would want to, even if it's like 1 or 2 people. Number 8 is, when did you start reading? Like I said before, I probably started reading around like middle school, like genuinely for fun and like pleasure reading. Before then, I think I was only reading for school, and meanwhile I was reading a lot. Like we had to fill out those like old school like reading logs for the summer, and I was reading a lot, but I saw it definitely as something that was like a responsibility and a chore and something I needed to do instead of something that I wanted to do. It wasn't like until I got like my first library card around middle school where I was like actually going to the library, hanging out there like every day after school, taking out books that I thought were interesting, that I was reading because of my own like agency. And that is like definitely probably like one of the best like reading moments that I've had in my life, reading periods in my life, other than like this past year in 2020 when I had a lot of free time to read throughout the year. So I ended up reading 100 books. Number 9 is, where do you read? I'll read pretty much anywhere. I got really into like audiobooks, I would say, in like end of 2019. So now I'll like always make sure I have like an audiobook downloaded, something to read. I can't really read easily like on road trips unless it's an audiobook, so it's definitely been like a way to like get a story in no matter like what I'm doing. Otherwise, I pretty much just read in my room. I like spend most of my time here, especially because of like everything going on in the world. So I'm mostly able to like do all my work during the day, relax for a couple of hours at night, and really delve into a story that I find interesting. And number 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? I'm honestly not specific. I feel like I get the most joy out of like horror, psychological thrillers, and romance. I read so much romance, all different types of romance. I also do read a lot of graphic novels and like comics. So like I'll read volumes of comics a lot. Other than that, I'll pretty much read anything in any format. I rent a lot of my library books. I recently got a Kindle, so I read ebooks through that. And I just see reading as like a way to enjoy myself. And I'm a huge mood reader, so it's really dependent on my mood what type of book I'll pick up. I would say it's more easy to pinpoint what I tend to not read, which I would say would be like historical fiction. Usually it's hard for me to like focus on historical fiction and like really like get fully into the story. Never been good at history, so that doesn't help. But anything else, I'll do informational, research, romance, YA, middle grade. I love it all. For the second half of this video, I want to go over my 2021 reading goals. So I tend to outread myself by one every year. So last year I read 100 books, and it's my like main goal to read 101 books. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it there, figuring I'm currently in a master's program pursuing my like degree in social work, and I also have an internship, work, social life. But I do tend to read a lot in all my like pockets of free time. So I would like to read 101 books if possible. My second goal is that I want to read at least like 4 Shakespeare plays that I have not gotten a chance to read before. Because of my experience in like school, I felt like a lot of classics were pushed upon me, and while I enjoyed them, I wasn't as passionate about them as I would like to be because my agency was out of the like question. So now that like I'm able to choose what I want to read, when I want to read it, I would like to read more classics, specifically Shakespeare. My third reading goal is I would like to participate in at least 3 readathons. There's a couple that I definitely like want to do, but it depends on like what time that they come up and like what my workload is at the time. Regardless, I would like to do at least 3. I also would like to read a little bit more outside of like my comfort genres, like psychological thrillers, romance, horror, YA, and I would like to read more like historical fictions, anything that I haven't read much of in the past, so maybe biographies and things of that sort. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe so we can read together in the future, and happy reading! Baby Yoda's in the background for moral support because I'm gonna have 3 degrees come May 2021, and I don't know how to use my own camera. Is that how you make a thumbnail?